This is Ray Flowers. You're on the air, and it's time to speak your piece.
Ray, first of all, I just want to tell you that I love your show, Ray.
You say you saw these GIs gunning down unarmed civilians?
Open in the name of the United States government!
Tell you what, Portland, it looks like the Marines have landed, and they don't look too happy.
This is a joke, right? I mean, this has got to be a joke.
I don't think so, Franny. I really don't think so.
Hi there, you're on the air.
Ray, you alright?
Well, to tell you the truth, honey, it doesn't look real good for the kid right now. Several soldiers have just broken into the studio. They're fully armed, and they're dressed in some kind of protective clothing. They're wearing respirators on their faces.
Shut it down!
Hey, Bluto, you ever heard of a little number called freedom of speech? Bill of Rights? Any of that ring a bell? Folks, I've just been ordered by my uninvited fascist guest to shut down, and I've refused.
All right,
I think...
Oh my God, what's happening? Daddy, what's happening?
I don't know, honey. I don't know.
The way we manage our platform, and that we have what we call community guidelines, content that we do not want to have on the platform. For example, anything that is adult content, promoting violence, promoting hate.
We're trying to get the shitty people not show up. It's a product thing.
Google is going on a hiring spree to try to stamp out offensive videos and comments on YouTube.
You can't just sit there and let these scumbags spread these lies about these kids.
It's disgusting. Russian bots getting in to inflame us after a high school shooting. It's, oh my God, how can this be happening?
But how would you quantify what's going on right now? I mean, it is crazy.
Well, it's a purge, Alex.
It would appear that there is a purge going on.
An absolute purge.
YouTube purge is finally upon us.
And that's the challenge, right? That normal media is now up against this just barrage of fake news, sometimes amplified by Russian bots. You now have Facebook and Google really struggling to try to, get rid of those. Get rid of those fake news videos.
And we've just gone through the 2016 election. Why is anything with crisis actor up at any of these social media sites? Shareholders, I think Congress, I think outside pressure has to be applied to these companies so that they are not facilitating this food chain. It's simply inexcusable.
Well, Jason, can you answer that? I mean, what are
simply inexcusable?
Well, Jason, can you answer that? I mean, these are not. It's not a First Amendment issue. There's no, you don't have a First Amendment right to have your content on YouTube.
Things seem to be calming down, getting more peaceful, but at the same time, this is something that these protesters were hoping to do tonight, and they seem to have gotten what they wanted.
YouTube CEO in a blog post did not say how many people currently monitor YouTube for offensive videos, but did say YouTube's trust and safety teams have reviewed nearly 2 million videos. Trust and safety team.
What department do you I'm in trust and safety. I do all the policy work. For safety policy. I do controversial team. Oh my goodness! I'm the team everyone says a lot about, yeah.
Like, because people will, like,
We're trying to downrank it, but you need to also have a control of your timeline. That's something we're working on.
I mean, how? I don't know what to do.
We're working on where we're trying to get the shitty people not show up. It's a product thing we're working on.
They claim that they are merely distributing information, but the fact that they are near monopoly distributors make them into public utilities and should subject them to more stringent regulations aimed at preserving competition, innovation, and fair and open universal access.
There is a disease in the heart of man. Its symptom is hate. Its symptom is anger. Its symptom is rage. Its symptom is war. The disease is human emotion.
Right. You'll see them all in time, all colors, all differences. Our people chose to do away with emotions. Those morning injections take them away.
When people have the freedom to choose, they choose wrong.
But Libria, I congratulate you. For there is a cure for this disease. At the cost of the dizzying highs of human emotion, we have suppressed its abysmal lows. And you, as a society, have embraced this cure. Prosium.
On the platform. For example, anything that is adult content, promoting violence, promoting hate.
Why is anything with crisis actor up at any of these social media sites?
Try to, get rid of those fake news videos. There's no, you don't have a First Amendment right to have your content on YouTube.
Citizens of New York and comrades from the Soviet Armed Forces, welcome to our first news broadcast after today's events. My name is Tatiana Kempinski, and I will be your regular news anchor from now on. We hope in time to obtain the cooperation of most of your familiar TV personalities once they return from a re-education program at our training facilities in Alaska. Meanwhile, I will make sure you get all necessary information about our efforts to restore peace and stability in your troubled country.
Nazi stormtroopers made other violent gestures. In 1933, together with sympathetic students, they organized public burnings of unsuitable books, particularly those by Jewish authors. Röhm wanted his stormtroopers integrated into the regular German army. The army was horrified.
Die SA lehnte man ab, und zwar wegen ihres Benehmens, wie sie auftraten, wie sie waren. Also die SA wurde allmählich, wie sie war, zum Schluss.
I don't think that I can call you beautiful bastards anymore because apparently that and several other things I do are not, quote, advertiser friendly. I had heard murmurings, I had heard a few YouTubers talking about it, but we personally got hit with it yesterday. Yesterday's video, and most likely many in the near future, will not be monetizable here on YouTube.
I don't know if you've heard, but some shit is going down, okay? YouTube is at its final stage, and I'm talking about death. YouTube, this is the end.
And I know there's some of you scratching your head right now saying, so what? It's not monetized. You won't be able to get advertisement revenue off of it. There's still plenty of good reasons to talk about that stuff regardless, and I agree entirely. It's just that websites who talk about this stuff almost exclusively, channels who run news shows, are going to be afraid to talk about certain topics, things that they should be talking about, things that we should all be talking about, and that can really suck, and that may include me. Obviously, if you have a news channel and you talk about controversial topics all of the time, you might find it very, very difficult to mention those controversial topics, knowing that the video will not get monetized. Now, it's kind of hypocritical because when that stuff shows up on CNN, when that shows up on Fox News, they're more than glad to advertise there, but for some reason YouTube is preventing them from advertising here on their website.
By taking away monetization, it is a form of censorship. Taking away the ability to monetize a video where you're saying things that they don't deem okay. That's been described as censorship with a different name because if you do this on the regular and you have no advertising, it's not sustainable. Although if that's also the case, how the hell am I supposed to talk about news? Our buddies over at Seeker Daily, they're a sister company, they told me over 150 of their videos have been denied monetization, and one of them, just so beautifully, is titled, How Free is Our Press? Looking at what we have at hand, it looks like they're trying to push some of us off the site. Say that you're not shutting down channels, but you are kind of shutting down channels. We've talked about it so many times on this show. If you really want to hurt somebody, you hit them in the wallet. If you take away their money, you make the content that they're making unsustainable, and it's just a slow death. It's an eventual death. It is an eventual shutting down.
There were certain things that somebody did not want me to talk about. This message has been sent in numerous ways. If you talk about Israel, you're gonna have a bad time. If you talk about what the US and their allies have been up to in Syria, you're gonna have a bad time. If you present evidence of war crimes and name names, you're gonna have a bad time. Trouble is, I feel morally obligated to address these issues, even if that means working for a month or 2 months for free.
Not a penny. Let's see if my videos just stop showing up in subscriptions anytime soon.
Let's have a look here and see what did my last video make on ads. $100?
Game over, guys. Looks like the YouTube AdSense revenue has dried up. It's time to find other things to do. Me, I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna be a fucking prostitute.
YouTube is completely fucked.
Your little free money train is over, YouTuber. Better fill out them Subway applications.
This will be... Look, I'll just keep it real with you guys. It's been sleepless nights the past 4 or 5 nights because of what's happening with YouTube and how it's YouTube-pocalypse. And we learned today we were officially blacklisted. We're making virtually no ad money on YouTube, which is crazy.
And if AdSense crashes to 0, I can't even pay half my bills. I have a mortgage, condo fees, baby expenses. I have to feed everyone in this family, have to, keep the power on, all that shit. And if AdSense goes, I can't do that. This month, I have to make a decision about whether I'm going to continue to do this or if I'm going to look for a full-time job again.
And by the way, I'm not even trying to monetize this video because there's no way. If you talk about current events on YouTube, they will not monetize your content.
We have experienced, along with many other progressive YouTube shows, a total and complete shutdown of advertising. There are effectively no ads playing, period, on our videos.
Something else we noticed
a big reason for a revenue drop, certain videos were demonetized on our channel. So let's give them all our videos on Islam. Nearly all our videos regarding Islam were demonetized, okay? Let's just assume you don't believe in a form of ideas or criticizing an ideology. You think that any kind of negative speech of Islam should be banned because they're liberal and that's what they want to do. It's at least consistent with their worldview. But something else we noticed. Almost every single video we have critical of the Young Turks has been demonetized.
What you see here are the videos on my channel. The green dollar signs represents the videos are monetized. But Google is trying to demotivate me to stop producing videos about Illuminati-related topics by turning off the money tab. Here is your proof. Videos like questioning 9/11, drunk UK soldier leaks bizarre US military information. Iranian commander says 9/11 attacks are planned by the US. 8 titles related to the Illuminati.
If you actually look at yours truly, our channel, in restricted mode, you can't see anything. You cannot find any videos. Now contrast our channel in restricted mode with the Young Turks. Look at this, everything shows up.
You could hit load more for days.
You could just hit load more for days. And their lackey, Kyle Kalinske.
Look at CNN's views. Look at the views of any of these mainstream news channels that try to be, we're going to be hip and cool and we're going to be on YouTube. They're in the toilet. They're dog shit. And for years they've tried to figure out how to fix that. If we get rid of all these people producing independent content, if we strangle them off the site, we're the best game in town if we're the only game in town, right?
I don't know if many of you know this, but I've been on YouTube for about 10 years. For about the first 5 years of that, I didn't make a single penny off of YouTube for a whole variety of reasons. But one of the components of why I actually went over to monetizing the videos was YouTube was going to have a sort of hierarchy of what was prioritized and what wasn't in search engines and all that sort of thing. One of the most obvious things that they're going to prioritize is monetized videos because they make 45% of the profit off those adverts. So if you don't monetize the adverts, so if you don't monetize the videos, the expectation, I mean this is never said anywhere, but it is just the most obvious business expectation, is that those videos will have a higher standing in any search engine than the non-monetized ones.
So we have been blacklisted by YouTube. That's the bottom line. We're beating many CNN shows in the key demographic, and we're making virtually nothing.
Всего лишь раз я видел такую силу. Тогда она не испугала меня. Но сейчас... Пусть прошлое умрет. Убей его. Если потребуется.
Years from now, they're gonna ask us, where were you when they took over the planet? We're gonna say, we just stood by and watched.
The other night I watched Conspiratus, and now I'm scared shitless of the satanic Illuminati. In part 4, they talk about UFOs, and how 2 of the top UFO researchers have determined that UFOs are not intergalactic, but actually interdimensional demonic beings.
Hope. 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 It is the only thing stronger than fear. A little hope is effective. A lot of hope is dangerous. So, contain it.
It should be possible for computers to detect malicious, misleading, and incorrect information and essentially have you not see it. We're arguing just take it off the page, right? Put it somewhere else. Make it harder to find.
Make it harder to find.
If you look at this, it's horrifying, but this is basically what happens when you get demonetized. And so it actually falls in line with what I've been saying this whole time.
I immediately turned on CNN to see what was going on. This was an active live shooting. There was a reporter live on the scene. This is a screenshot I took off my own television. These guys were running ads, 5-minute long ads, every 5 minutes when they knew people were watching, glued to the TV, looking for live updates. This one I pictured here, 3 out of 7 ads. Here's the ironic touch that makes you just love that golden shower. Brought to you by Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, Pepsi. You know, at first I was just angry at CNN for monetizing this tragedy, this live tragedy, right? I'm glued to the TV, I'm looking for updates, and these sick fucks are basically just pulling the money lever because that ratings are so high. But then when I'm thinking about it after a couple hours, I'm like, hold on a fucking second. These are the same brands that boycotted YouTube. Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, Pepsi. These are the same guys that pulled their ads out of YouTube for being inappropriate. Nobody's sincere. These brands don't give a shit about monetizing tragedy. They've been doing it for decades on CNN. It's just about control and politics and money. That's it. I saw all these brands that boycotted YouTube, and I'm like, oh my God. So this is confirmed just a total sham. YouTube, if it's your policy to not run ads on videos about tragedies, no matter the intent, then how do you explain this? Jimmy Kimmel on Mass Shooting in Las Vegas. GMC ad. Here's an ad for the new Blade Runner movie. And it's #1 on trending. So they not only made the conscious decision to put ads on this video in contradiction of their own statement, they've also decided to trend it #1. They never responded to the criticism. In fact, they doubled down. This video has more ads than I've seen in the past month since this adpocalypse happened. Just out of curiosity, I went and checked this morning to see if ads were still on the video in response to Philly D's criticism. Let's have a look. Royal Caribbean, Wells Fargo, University of Phoenix, Geostorm. So their response was not only to ignore the criticism, not enforce their own rules, but to double down and put what seemed like even more ads on the video.
It's just one more way of reducing your liberty and reminding you that they can fuck with you anytime they want, as long as you put up with it.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war. I'll be very blunt in my assessment.
I'm peeking, Kevin.
It's my time now.
It is very important that the Russian government consider carefully their continued support of the Assad regime.
Ever since I started exposing the Illuminati conspiracy back in 2009, I always expected them to make a move once a truth channel gets popular and reaches millions of people. But I was always realistic about it, and I knew they would do it in a way that would not be obvious, and not look like it's directed specifically towards truth channels. Going around and deleting videos or channels without good reason would look suspicious to both the YouTube support staff and the truth community and skeptics in general. So, they hit us in another clever way. It seems it took them several years to infiltrate YouTube and hit truth channels specifically. Here is what they did. 1. They made sure that videos that expose Illuminati events, such as 9/11, the Boston Marathon bombings, and the Islamic State CIA videos, become really hard to find on YouTube, by making them show up at the bottom of the search results. For example, when you search for Islamic State fake, only videos that don't really show proper evidence get listed on the first page. I had a video that was called Jihadi John Fake Beheadings. It got 600,000 views in 1 month. It was always on the front page, but overnight, it disappeared from the front page and views almost completely stopped. Another way to minimize views certain videos get is by preventing videos to show in the subscription feeds of subscribers. And that is exactly what is happening as well.
And when I came back last week, I checked my website. The numbers are doing better than ever. Facebook, the analytics and the insight, they're doing great. Everything's fine until I check my YouTube channel to find out that we're getting lowest number of hits than ever before, and 2/3 of my videos have been demonetized. Not many people know this, but my main source of income is YouTube advertisement. It's an ethical way for you to choose. If you want to watch an advertisement, you will. If you don't, you will click skip or have ad blocker. It is your personal choice. But with that income that we used to have, we used to sustain this entire operation. With these latest changes, there's no way, shape, or form I could even continue what I'm doing right now because of this sudden, unexpected, unexplained change. Now, first, I just sent all the videos that were demonetized randomly, including the top videos, to YouTube, to the support network. And I told myself, maybe it's me. Maybe it's not just, because Facebook is doing great and the website's doing great. Maybe it's something that I'm doing wrong with the YouTube channel. Let me bust my ass and do everything I can to do the best content I can this week. And I created 14 videos. 14 videos this week, and a lot of them have been demonetized, and they're getting record low numbers. 2,000 hits when we have 200,000 YouTube subscribers. Why is this happening? Well, I could just think of a couple things. Look what just happened with antiwar.com. Antiwar.com, a very popular alternative, independent news site. They had their AdSense account totally taken away because of images that they posted from Abu Ghraib. AdSense came to them and said, because of our policy of not showing gore, we're going to take your AdSense account away. Antiwar.com made a big public stink about this, and everyone pointed out the fact, like, hey, all these other mainstream establishment, toe-the-line kind of media websites, they have a lot more gore than Antiwar.com. Why don't you take away their AdSense account? Why was Antiwar.com targeted? Google and AdSense, which are the ones who are taking away my revenue now, they said, okay, we'll reinstate it. And then they came back even more saying, oh, you have pictures of the Ukraine conflict that are pretty gory. We're going to just take it away again. So they totally backed off, total censorship, cut off the total supply line, the financial line for antiwar.com, threatening their establishment, threatening their alternative independent media while allowing all these other mainstream media outlets to show gore. So why are they doing this to me? And the official response I got is the main two videos were about ISIS, and they said it's sensitive content. There was no gore, there was no nastiness, there was no killings, there was no blood, nothing in those videos. But they said it's sensitive content. All the other videos that they randomly demonetized, They said that they need to send to a special team, a special unit that's above them to investigate this, and they have yet to even respond to me in any way, shape, or form, and they just destroyed my main flow of income, which makes me not able to work and pay off the servers, the data bills, the employee that I have. I asked my audience on Facebook and Twitter, are you even seeing the videos in the subscription feed? And this is what they had to say. Nope. I see them, but I see them on Facebook posts before the YouTube posts. No, not really. I usually have to view your channel in order to view your videos. Not as much as I have in the past. So even the 200,000 plus YouTube subscribers that we engaged in, that I worked so hard throughout the years, putting out my blood, sweat, and tears, interviewing politicians, getting a gun to my head in Chicago, getting threatened and harassed and intimidated for the reporting that we do, they're not even getting the videos that are supposed to be given out to you. And of course, Google announced their new algorithm where they're going to be deciding if something is truthful enough, and they will hurt its ranking in the search engines if something is not truthful to them. So no longer are articles and videos based on popularity. If you like them, if you find them honest, if it's your personal truth, if it resonates with you, you will share those. Now Google's going to downvote them, bring them down in the algorithm, which they have right now to our YouTube channel, all of a sudden, just like they did to antiwar.com, and it's a clear case of censorship.
2. They make sure that genuine truth channels cannot make a living on YouTube by simply disabling ads to be shown on certain videos. For 5 years, most of my 9/11 videos showed commercials, mostly as the result of content claims by third parties. But in March of 2015, all ads got removed, without warning. So I sent a message to YouTube and asked them why that was the case, and they told me that YouTube chooses to not run ads on videos with sensitive material. It's clever because most Illuminati events involve people getting killed in false flag attacks, and thus the videos exposing these events will always be sensitive. In other words, they can make sure that all videos exposing the NWO get demonetized, and thus more and more people will stop making videos about it. This is a genius plan to slowly get rid of new truth channels. The only channels who will remain untouched by this are channels like Mark Dice, who just covered topics of no real importance. Remember that this was put in effect in 2015, 14 years after the actual World Trade Center demolitions. It makes no sense why they would decide to deem World Trade Center footage as sensitive or controversial so many years after the attacks. So I was trying to figure out why they would start to do that now, and after some research, I found out. Apparently a lot of new 9/11 material got released under a Freedom of Information Act just 2 months prior. It appears that this is an attempt to discourage people from making new documentaries or compilations, because let's face it, most people, even if they have good intentions with educating people, do not have the spare time to work on videos for days, and not earn any money in return. After all, time is money, especially in this economy. Thanks, Obama. So, in short, any popular video about the 9/11 conspiracy, or video exposing false flag events by the CIA, will secretly get demonetized, and by secretly I mean, the monetization button will still display a green color and list as monetized, but without ever actually showing any type of advertisement. And I'm talking from experience. But this is just the start. The real censorship is likely yet to come.
One strategy is to shadow ban, so you have ultimate control. The idea of a shadow ban is that you ban someone, but they don't know they've been banned, because they keep posting and no one sees their content. So they just think that no one is engaging with their content, when in reality, no one is seeing it.
Sale limpia la cocina, todo que mañana se inaugura el restaurante, coge las 20 paelleras esas, y estaban en su mohosa. las amarra y las entierra en el agua. Y acuérdate, a donde las echa, que mañana tienes que ir a por ellas. Y cuando salgo, era las 2 de la noche, había bajado la marea. Las dejé amarrar, tal como me lo dijo, las tiré, le puse un palo. Dice, llego a la cocina, eran las 2:30 de la noche. Risita, ¿qué la has hecho? Allí ya está, jefe. Ya, pues acuéstate, que mañana a las 8 te llamo para que vaya a recoger las paelleras. Y me acuesto en ya para abrir el restaurante que era el arroz. Y me llama el cocinero. Ve por la paellera. Venga, que a las 2 de la tarde ya están aquí. Miren, bañador. En las chanclas. Todo despeinado porque no me dio tiempo nada ponerme las chanclas y el bañador. Voy a la playa, había subido la marea. Jesús. Jesús. Había subido la marea y encontré una paella. Y la encontré porque estaba la paellera agarrada metida entre las piedras de Chipiona, del faro. Y cuando entro en el restaurante me ve el cocinero con una paellera y a ver la 20 paelleras. ¡Asómate, mira dónde llega el agua! Llegaba el agua hasta el restaurante. Había subido la marea. Jesús, ¡ay, qué hacemos ahora! Con los 2 sacos de arroz. ¡Ay, llama para Sevilla! ¡Llama a Sevilla que traigo un país! ¡Ay, Jesús, y yo con el bañador y con la paella! ¡Ay, el cocinero! No vea, para Sevilla.
And it's all about the Illuminati. The Illuminati was established back in the 17th century when the 25 goals were announced by Adam Weishaupt to take over the world. These goals included elect our own people to the higher offices and political positions, control the media. February the 9th, 1917, wherein Congressman Callaway from Texas announced on the floor that the J.P. Morgan interests had bought up 25 of America's leading newspapers and inserted their own editors in order to control the press.
The overall strategy concerning the existence of the Illuminati was delineated by Weishaupt. He said this, quote, "Control the very fact of our existence. If they discover us, conceal our real objective by profession of benevolence. If our real objective is perceived, pretend to disband and relinquish the whole thing, but assume another name and put forth new agents." And that is what they have done over the years. The thing is that anytime anyone exposed them or any of their fronts, they were ridiculed. They were said that this had nothing to do with the Illuminati. These are just people doing various things on their own. It's a mistake, it's ignorance, whatever excuse that they need to use for the machinations of the Illuminati. Now, one of the tactics that the Illuminists always did was try and take over the publishing industry in any country where they had expanded, the newspapers, literature, magazines, etc. When they were discovered by the Bavarian government, they pretended to go out of business and resurfaced as the German Union. They literally took over the publishing business in Germany by controlling what was disseminated through their reading societies. They promoted their own authors, for instance, and drew a veil of silence over those who were independent and who were not part or parcel of their independence.
possible. Everything was done within the guidelines. No, I am not doubting you. Which one?
This content is made possible by individuals like you. Become a supporting member and access our growing library of membership courses and videos. Learn more about our membership at academyofideas.com/members. I rejoice that horses and steers have to be broken before they can be made the slaves of men, and that men themselves have some wild oats still left to sow before they become submissive members of society. If this claim of Henry David Thoreau's is true, that we must be broken before we become enslaved and submissive, then we are a broken population. For most of us are submissive to a fault. We do what we are told, no matter how absurd, idiotic, or immoral, so long as the command comes from a politician, bureaucrat, or scientist. In exchange for protection from relatively trivial threats, we have given away our freedom and are permitting the rise of a truly deadly threat, totalitarianism. But can the tides be turned? In this video, we are going to make the case that the internet, smartphones, and social media are technologies that may prove very unfavorable to those who wish to place us in the chains of a technocratic totalitarianism. It is said that politics is downstream from culture, that culture, in other words, determines the type of rule that emerges in a society. But one could also say that culture is downstream from technology. Technological innovations, by creating new possibilities for how we interact with the world, change culture. Of all the technological revolutions that engender cultural change, changes in communication technologies are among the most impactful. For these technologies sculpt the flow of information, and information is power. Information directs our focus and so helps shape our perception of reality. Information demonstrates what is possible and so influences how we act. And in the political realm, information legitimizes or delegitimizes a ruling class structure. Change the communication technology and you change the flow of information. Change the flow of information and you change a culture. Change a culture and you change the political status quo. A cursory glance at two communication technology revolutions that preceded the rise of the internet, the invention of Gutenberg's movable type printing press in the mid-15th century, and the rise of the mass media of radio and television in the 20th century, reveals the dramatic social change that comes in their wake. Socially, the typographic extension of man, wrote Marshall McLuhan, brought in nationalism, industrialism, mass markets, and universal literacy in education. The printing press led to an explosion in the publishing of books. It is estimated that only 12,000 books were copied by all the scribes in Europe in the 50 years prior to this invention, while in the 50 years following it, approximately 12 million books were produced. By reducing the cost of publishing a book, information flowed into more houses and ideas expanded the minds of a greater number of people, and with profound political implications. The increase in the number of Bibles was an important factor in the Reformation, and the pamphlet movement was a driving force of the French and American revolutions. As a result of Gutenberg's invention, writes Andrei Miroshnichenko, monarchs were beheaded, world maps were redrawn, modern society and modern economics were born. The next major communication revolution was the invention of the electric telegraph and the radio, telephone, and television, which followed soon after. These technologies diminished the need for a transportation network of rail, road, and sea to spread information, and so shrunk the globe. The ability to beam information into every home in a nation simultaneously gave rise to the paradigm of the mass media that defined the 20th century. In 1947, the Commission of Freedom of the Press gave a prescient description of the power unleashed by the informational flows of this new media paradigm. The modern press itself is a new phenomenon. Its typical unit is the great agency of mass communication. Those agencies facilitate thought and discussion. They can stifle it. They can advance the progress of civilization, or they can thwart it. They can debase and vulgarize mankind. They can endanger the peace of the world. They can play up or down the news and its significance, foster and feed emotions, create complacent fictions and blind spots, misuse the great words, and uphold empty slogans. The mass media of radio and television structures a top-down informational flow. The relative few who own and operate the broadcasting infrastructure, in cooperation with the wealthy and powerful individuals, corporations, and institutions who influence the institutions of mass media, filter, manipulate, and package the content in ways that serve their interests. The mass media proclaim themselves a supplier, but it really serves as a valve, which opens for money or when given permission to by the authorities, wrote Miroshnichenko. Mass media made possible a never-before-seen conformity in worldviews and proved an excellent paradigm for the furtherance of ideologies that favored top-down, centralized control. For those who determine what information flows through the mass media have the power to direct the attention of the masses toward certain issues and events, and away from others, or as Michael Parenti explains. If the press cannot mold our every opinion, it can frame the perceptual reality around which our opinions take shape. Here may lie the most important effect of the news media. They set the issue agenda for the rest of us, choosing what to emphasize and what to ignore or suppress, in effect, organizing much of our political world for us. The media may not always be able to tell us what to think, but they are strikingly successful in telling us what to think about. In a more cynical manner, one could say that mass media grants the few who control it the sort of power depicted in George Orwell's novel 1984. Power is in tearing human minds to pieces and putting them together again in new shapes of your own choosing. The Nazis made use of the mass media to induce their population into accepting totalitarian rule, for as the Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels stated, "Our way of taking power and using it would have been inconceivable without the radio." Gordon Allport and Hadley Cantrell, in their 1935 book The Psychology of Radio, echoed the sentiment behind Goebbels' claim, writing, "Radio is an altogether novel medium of communication, preeminent as a means of social control, and epochal in its influence upon the mental horizons of men. A unidirectional, limited, and filtered flow of information, all in the control of a select few and served up to the gullible masses, creates a situation analogous to Plato's allegory of the cave. In this allegory, prisoners are chained in a cave and forced to watch the dancing of shadows on walls. Not knowing any better, the prisoners mistake the shadows for reality, and as Richard Weaver writes in Ideas Have Consequences, the mass media is a translation into actuality of Plato's celebrated figure of the cave. The defect of the prisoners is that they cannot perceive the truth. The wall before them, on which the shadows play, is the screen on which press, motion picture, and radio project their account of life. And herein lies the power of the internet revolution. It is a means for the masses to escape from the cave of manipulated shadows. For each time one of us identifies corruption by institutional authorities, sees through a lie, or identifies an act of propaganda, once we notice, in other words, that what is thought to be a truth is but the manipulation of a shadow, we can reveal our discovery to an audience of potentially millions. The internet revolution is ending the monopoly the mass media has on the flow of information, and so if the printing press led to an emancipation of readership, then as Miroshnichenko writes, what we are experiencing now is the emancipation of authorship. Personal computers as well as mobile devices have given all individuals the unlimited right to share their thoughts with others, whatever their reason. Will the emancipation of authorship be as transformative as the communication revolutions that preceded it? Time will tell, but to quote Miroshnichenko once again, if historical analogies are accurate, then we should expect comparable cataclysms following the rise of the internet. The powers of the old authorities have always collapsed along with their loss of sacral control over information. As a result, the social, political, and economic status quo falls apart. With every release of content, society sheds its old form, like a snake sheds its skin. The informational flows made possible by the internet should not be viewed as solely destructive and delegitimizing in their effects. Rather, in a more constructive manner, they are revealing alternative possibilities for how society can operate and how individuals can live their lives, be it alternatives to the inflationary monetary system of fiat currency, to the government control of education and healthcare, or to the political structure of society at large. Ideas that would never have been permitted in the controlled paradigm of the mass media are being spread by the emancipation of authorship. This new media paradigm is unleashing the creative destruction needed to keep society from descending into the rot of stagnation. But as this free flow of information is threatening to the parasitic lifestyle of many who occupy positions of power, we should expect increased calls for censorship in the attempt to force us back into the cave of deceptions. This censorship will be justified as needed to limit hate speech and to correct misinformation, but these excuses are merely the attractive packaging being used to hide what is a socially destructive act, the stifling of free speech in the attempt to protect powerful interests. The emancipation of authorship threatens the legitimacy of the oligarchical class of politicians, bureaucrats, and crony capitalists, and their ability to pull off their machinations behind the protective veil of the manipulated mass media. The gods and men who have kept their prestige for long have never tolerated discussion. For the crowd to admire, it must be kept at a distance. This is not the first time attempts have been made to limit the informational flows that emerge from new communication technologies. Following the invention of the printing press, the ruling class of Europe implemented harsh censorship laws. One example was the English Licensing Order of 1643, which mandated the arrest of anyone who printed books critical of the government. But the power of the printing press proved too strong. Its effects could not be contained by mandates of a ruling class grasping for power. And as Marshall McLuhan wrote, "Once a new technology comes into a society, it cannot cease to permeate that society until every institution is saturated." But history merely rhymes. It does not repeat, and it is possible that if we are too passive and do not take a hard stance against attempts to stifle free speech, then this technological revolution will be one that differs from those of the past. Those in power will learn to use this new technological paradigm to their advantage, and instead of liberating us, these technologies will be the tool that descends us into the hell of a technocratic global totalitarianism. Public opinion, wrote Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I don't know how sociologists define it, but it seems obvious to me that it can only consist of interacting individual opinions, freely expressed and independent of government or party opinion. So long as there is no independent public opinion in our country, there is no guarantee that the extermination of millions and millions for no good reason will not happen again, that it will not begin any night, perhaps this very night. Become a supporting member and access our growing library of membership courses and videos. Learn more about our membership at academyofideas.com/members.
Drink to our youth, to the days come and gone, for the age of oppression is now nearly done. We'll drive out the empire from this land that we own. With our blood and our steel we will take back our home.
Ah, Robinson Crusoe. The Negroes didn't like that because of his man, Friday. And Nietzsche. Ah, Nietzsche. The Jews didn't like Nietzsche. Now, here's a book about lung cancer. You see, all the cigarette smokers got into a panic, so for everybody's peace of mind, we burn it. Ah, now this one must be very profound. The Ethics of Aristotle. Now, anybody that read that must believe he's a cut above anybody that hadn't.
Has joined Quentin Tarantino films as being banned. They are being removed. If it were a different time, slightly different place, you would say that they are burning the books. And we know how good book burnings are, and how that is something that's seen as, well, today it's considered part of an Antifa movement. It's part of sympathy and empathy, but you can also see how that might be taken as something more authoritarian. Now, I have to say, I cannot stand the idea that we are purging media based on someone's feelings about those films.
Okay, most people know the purge is happening again. Fresh rounds of censorship are heading your way. Censorship is to society what cancer is to the human body. It's destructive. It degrades it. If you're calling for censorship today, you'd better be ready for people to call for censorship on you tomorrow. When you tear out a man's tongue, you're not proving to people that he's a liar. You've just proven to the world that you fear what that person might say. And you're not just cutting off a person's tongue. You're cutting off the ears of those who want to hear what that person has to say, whether it's good or bad. See, censorship is not and has never been about protecting people from harmful language. Censorship is about control.
Of what other books and films and plays that have to be destroyed. They have to be purged. They have to be removed because Antifa will not like it. We have to protect the feelings of Antifa so that when they're standing around occupying Seattle, they have some good feelings behind them. So some of the things I can think of right off the top of my head, that means we have to get rid of the book Sounder, because that takes place not only in the South, not only during slavery, but it's about black people. So you got to get rid of that one. It's gone. Sounder classic, got to go. You got to get rid of Lord of the Rings. I know just a year ago, there were many of the far left that were trying to get rid of the Lord of the Rings because orcs somehow are black, and therefore you have to get rid of that. Fantasy world, non-existent, created a whole new world, but of course orcs are somehow black, so we have to get rid of that. So that's gone. We have to get rid of the Wizard of Oz. Yes, the Wizard of Oz. Why? It has monkeys in it. Got to get rid of that one.
Those who burn books today, and this is, make no mistake, this is a modern day digital book burning. Those who burn books today will be burning bodies tomorrow. How do we know? Because history teaches us that. The problem is, we don't learn from history. And those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. I don't want your voice to be erased. I don't want other voices to be erased, but that's what's happening. We're literally marching toward a George Orwell 1984 dystopian society where the only thing you'll be allowed to listen to is what they approve for your ears. And when you cry out for freedom, then it's going to be a little bit too late when you could have stood up for a Stefan Molyneux or an Owen Benjamin or an Alex Jones. I don't agree with all these guys, but I want their voices to be heard. Why? Because truth fears no scrutiny.
We have to create a list of things that you cannot put out there, that you cannot do, and that you cannot read, and that you cannot talk about. And don't worry, it's for your good. They're doing it for you. Don't mind the fact that it's limiting your thought. It's removing your freedom. It's denying you the freedom of speech and expression. No, don't worry about that. The important thing is they're doing this for you. You don't need those rights. Antifa will take care of it for you.
The communists foisted it. The Marxists foisted it. The socialists foisted it. And it literally led to millions, tens of millions of lives ended. A mommy or daddy big government. A mommy or daddy Silicon Valley giant. Thank you for protecting us, mommy and daddy. We couldn't do it without you. We're not adults. We can't make our own decisions, so you're making our decisions for us. It's for our best interest. No, it's not. It's for them to control you. They just controlled you. Every step toward censorship is one more step toward totalitarianism. The shade of totalitarianism you, who call for censorship, accept into your lives today, but you won't be tomorrow.
See, it's no good, Montag. We've all got to be alike. The only way to be happy is for everyone to be made equal. So, we must burn the books, Montag. All the books.
But this land is ours and we'll see it wiped clean of the scourge that has sullied our hopes and our dreams. Drink to our youth, to the days come and gone, for the age of oppression is now nearly done.